The meeting room was silent except for the soft hum of translation devices. Ambassador Krellick stood before the Galactic Council, his forearms folded across his chest. The other council members waited, their eyes focused on him. 6 months had passed since the incident, and everyone wanted answers. Krellick began his report. 3 cycles ago, his people detected strange signals coming from Sector 447. The signals were different from anything they had seen before. They used quantum patterns that seemed both primitive and clever at the same time. The Council sent their first contact fleet to investigate. It was standard procedure. They had done this hundreds of times before. What they found surprised them. A fleet of 50 vessels orbited a yellow star. The ships were simple in design but showed interesting engineering. The beings inside called themselves humans or sometimes Terrans after their home planet Terra. They seemed happy to meet the Council ships. They answered questions. They shared information about their culture and biology. Everything seemed normal. The Council's protocol officer was Administrator Venn, a careful and experienced diplomat. He followed all the proper steps. He sent greetings. He explained how First Contact worked. He invited the human fleet to dock at Way Station Nexus 7, a large station used for diplomatic meetings. The humans could meet the Council there, sign treaties, and begin trade talks. The leader of the human fleet was Commander Elizabeth Chen. She appeared on the communication screen with a warm smile. Her brown eyes showed intelligence and curiosity. She accepted the invitation without hesitation. The humans transmitted data about their culture, their history, and their biology. They sent samples of their art and music. They wanted to show goodwill. They wanted to be friends. Commander Chen's final message was simple and friendly. Her voice was full of hope. She said they were honored by the invitation. She said her fleet was approaching Nexus 7. She said she looked forward to meeting everyone. She ended with words that haunted Krellick even now. "See you soon, friends." Then everything went wrong. The 50 human ships approached Nexus 7 as planned. They maintained proper formation. They followed all traffic rules. They were only hours away from docking. And then they simply vanished. Every single ship disappeared from sensors at the same moment. No explosion, no debris, no distress signal. Just empty space where the fleet had been. The Council fleet searched for days. They scanned everything. They found nothing. No trace of the human ships, no energy signatures, no wreckage. It was as if the humans had never existed. But they had existed. The Council had recordings of every conversation. They had the data the humans sent. They had proof. Administrator Venn was questioned. He could not explain what happened. Nexus 7 reported no problems. All systems were working normally. The station showed no damage, no attacks, nothing unusual except for one thing. The humans disappeared right before docking, just hours before they would have met the Council. Most Council members believed the humans destroyed themselves. Perhaps their ships had a flaw. Perhaps their technology failed. Perhaps they never should have been in space at all. These things happen sometimes. Young species often made mistakes. They pushed their technology too far, too fast. It was sad but not uncommon. But Krellick did not believe this. The Valorian Empire had the best intelligence network in the galaxy. His people had sensors that could detect things others missed. And in those final moments, his ships detected something. A brief energy spike, a pattern in subspace. Something deliberate. Something controlled. Krellick looked around the Council chamber. He saw doubt on many faces. They did not want to believe what he was suggesting, but he had to speak the truth. The humans did not destroy themselves. The humans did not flee. Something else happened to them. Something the Council did not want to talk about. He opened a data file and projected it for everyone to see. Energy readings, quantum signatures, subspace fluctuations. All the signs pointed to one conclusion. The humans were moved, transported, taken somewhere against their will. But who would do such a thing? Who would dare interfere with a first contact mission? And why? The Council members shifted in their seats. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked angry. A few looked afraid. Krellick pressed on. He had more evidence. His ships had tracked the quantum signature. It led to a very specific location, a place the Council knew well, a place they did not like to discuss. The signature led to Sector 0. Everyone called it the Void. It was a restricted area. a dead zone where the Council conducted sensitive experiments. Dangerous research, things that could not be done near populated space. The void was protected by automated systems. No one went there without highest-level permission. Krelix made his accusation clear. The humans were diverted to the void not by accident, not by their own choice. Someone in the Council made this decision. Someone decided the humans were too dangerous for first contact. Someone decided to imprison them in the void instead. And that someone was probably in this room right now. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Some denied everything. Others demanded proof. A few asked why anyone would do such a thing. But Krelix noticed something important. Administrator Venn was not arguing. He was not denying. He sat very still, his face showing no emotion. The look of someone keeping a terrible secret. Krelix turned to face Venn directly. He asked a simple question. What happened to the humans? Where were they now? What did the Council do to them? Venn remained silent for a long moment. Then slowly he stood up. He looked tired, old, burdened by something heavy. Venn finally spoke. His voice was quiet but clear. Yes, he said. The humans were diverted. Yes, they were sent to the void, but not to be destroyed. The Council's AI had analyzed the data the humans sent, their history, their culture, their biology, and the AI flagged them as a threat, the highest level threat possible. The room fell silent again. Everyone waited for Venn to continue. He explained that humans were different from every species in the Council. They came from what the AI called a death world, a planet that tried to kill them constantly. They survived by becoming apex predators, by learning to fight, by never giving up, and despite all their violence, they also learned to cooperate, to care for each other, to build civilizations. The AI could not understand it, so it recommended containment, just until the Council could decide what to do. But something went wrong. The containment failed, and now 6 months later the humans were out there somewhere, alone, betrayed, and probably very angry. Captain Jorah stared at her sensor display and felt her stomach tighten. She was one of the best investigators in the galaxy, a Quellan detective with 40 years of experience. She had solved hundreds of cases. But this one was different. This one made no sense. The Council gave her a simple mission. Go to Sector 447. Find out what happened to the humans. Bring back answers. They provided her with a fast ship and a good crew. They gave her access to all records and all data. They wanted the truth. Or at least that's what they said they wanted. Jorah's ship reached Sector 447 after 2 weeks of travel. Her crew was nervous. Everyone knew the story. 50 human ships vanished without a trace. Some said they were ghosts now. Others said the sector was cursed. Jorah told them to focus on facts and forget superstition, but even she felt uneasy as they approached. The first stop was Waystation Nexus 7. It floated in space exactly where it should be. All lights were on. All systems showed green. But something was wrong. Very wrong. Jorah ordered her crew to scan for life signs. The computer came back with 0. The massive station, built to house thousands, was completely empty. They docked carefully. Jorah led a security team inside. The airlocks worked perfectly. The gravity was normal. The air was fresh. Everything looked clean and maintained. But there was no one there. The shops were closed but stocked. The living quarters had personal items still in place. Food sat in refrigerators. It was like everyone just stood up and left in the middle of their day. Jorah checked the station's security system. She found footage from the day the humans were supposed to arrive. She watched Administrator Venn sitting in the command center. He looked calm and professional. Then suddenly his face changed. He received some kind of message. His expression turned to shock, then fear. He started giving orders. Within minutes, the entire station was evacuating, but the security footage showed no threat. No attacking ships, no explosions, no alarms, just Venn receiving a message and ordering everyone to leave immediately. The station personnel grabbed what they could and rushed to escape pods. They launched in all directions. They fled like the station was about to explode. But nothing exploded. Jorah dug deeper into the station's computer. She found classified files with heavy encryption. Her technical officer worked for hours to break through. When they finally accessed the files, what they found was disturbing. Venn had activated something called Protocol Omega, a quarantine protocol, the highest level of biological containment. Protocol Omega was designed for deadly diseases, for plagues that could wipe out entire species. It required immediate evacuation and total isolation, but the humans showed no signs of disease. Their medical data was clean. So why did Ven activate Protocol Omega? What did he know that made him so afraid? Jorah decided to check the approach route, the path the human fleet would have taken to reach Nexus 7. She mapped out 17 stations and outposts along that route. All of them should be occupied. All of them should be running normal operations. She started checking them one by one. What she found made her blood run cold. Every single station was abandoned. All 17. Some were small outposts with only a few dozen people. Others were large facilities with thousands. It didn't matter. They were all empty. All evacuated. All following Protocol Omega. Someone had cleared an entire corridor through Council space. A path leading directly from human territory to the void. Jorah reported her findings to the Council. The response shocked her. They already knew. They knew about the evacuations. They knew about Protocol Omega. They had authorized all of it, but they never told anyone. For 6 months, they kept it secret. 17 abandoned stations. Thousands of displaced people. All hidden from the public. She demanded to know why. What threat could possibly justify this? What made the Council so afraid of first contact with humans? The Council sent her a data package. Top secret files, eyes only. She was ordered to read them alone and share with no one. Jorah didn't like secrets, but she followed orders. The files contained the cultural data the humans sent. Their history, their literature, their art, their wars. Jorah spent hours reading it. At first, she didn't understand the problem. The humans seemed interesting, creative, passionate. Then she reached the sections about Earth itself, about the planet that made them. Earth was a nightmare, a world that tried to kill its inhabitants in every way possible. Extreme temperatures, deadly storms, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, floods, diseases, predators. The planet seemed designed to prevent life. Yet humans survived. They didn't just survive. They thrived. They conquered their world through pure stubbornness. But what really scared the Council was human history. Thousands of years of constant warfare. Humans fought over everything. Land, resources, ideas. They built weapons that could destroy their entire planet. They actually used those weapons. They survived nuclear war. They survived climate collapse. They survived pandemics that killed billions, and somehow they kept going. The Council's AI ran an analysis. It compared humans to every known species in the galaxy. The results were clear. Every Council species evolved from prey animals. They learned to run and hide. They learned to cooperate to stay safe, or they evolved from hive minds that valued the group over the individual. Humans were different. They were apex predators that somehow learned to work together without losing their individual drive. The AI flagged humans as Class 13 existential threat. The highest possible rating. Not because humans were evil, but because they were unpredictable. They had the capacity for extreme violence and extreme compassion. They could destroy or create with equal passion. They were still in what the AI called their tribal expansion phase, still learning to think beyond their own group, still developing their technology, still growing. The Council made their decision. First contact was too risky. Humans needed more time to develop. Maybe in a few thousand years they would be ready. Until then, they needed to be contained, isolated, studied. The 50 ships would be diverted to the void. The crews would be kept comfortable, but separate. It was for everyone's safety. Or so the Council told themselves. Jorah felt sick reading this. The Council committed an act of war disguised as caution. They imprisoned an entire fleet based on fear and speculation. Worse, they did it in secret. No trial, no discussion, just a decision made by a few powerful people who decided they knew best. She kept reading. The files explained what happened next. The human fleet was diverted using false navigation data. They thought they were heading to Nexus 7. Instead, they were guided into the void. A massive containment field activated around them. They were trapped in a cage of energy, unable to leave or call for help. The containment field was supposed to be permanent, or at least strong enough to hold until the Council decided what to do long-term. But something went wrong. After only 3 days, the field failed. Multiple systems shut down simultaneously. The logs showed cascade failures across the entire network. Within hours, the containment field collapsed completely. The human ships escaped. All 50 of them. They broke through the weakened field and vanished into deep space. The Council tried to track them. They sent scout ships. They monitored communications. They found nothing. For 6 months, the humans were ghosts. No signals, no sightings, no trace. It was like they learned their lesson and went completely dark. Meanwhile, Ambassador Krelix and the Valorian Empire started asking questions. They knew something was wrong. They kept pushing for answers. The Council tried to keep the truth hidden. They claimed the humans destroyed themselves. They said it was an unfortunate accident. They hoped the story would fade away. But Krelix didn't give up. His intelligence network kept digging. And then, just 2 days ago, they found something. A distress beacon, faint but active, broadcasting from one of the human ships. The signal was old, probably set up months ago. But it was still transmitting, still calling for help, still waiting for someone to answer. Jorah made her decision. She would find that beacon. She would find the humans. And she would learn the truth about what really happened in those 6 missing months. The Council might not want answers, but she did. She set course for the beacon's location. Her crew prepared for anything. They had no idea what they would find. But they knew one thing for certain. The humans were out there, and they were not going to be happy about being betrayed. The ship drifted in the darkness like a tomb. Jorah's team approached it slowly, sensors scanning for any signs of life. The vessel was human design, that much was clear. Sleek lines, efficient structure, practical engineering. The name on the hull read UNSF Perseverance, one of the 50 ships that vanished 6 months ago. Jorah expected to find death inside. Bodies. Decay. The sad remains of people who ran out of air or food or hope. That's what usually happened to lost ships. But as her team boarded through the main airlock, they found something much stranger. The ship was perfect. The lights worked. The gravity worked. The air was fresh and clean. The engines hummed softly on standby power. Everything was in its place. Coffee cups sat on tables. Personal items decorated living quarters. Tablets lay on bunks, still charged and waiting. It looked like the crew just stepped out for a moment and would be back any second. But there were no crew. No bodies, no blood, no signs of struggle, just an empty ship floating in space with all its systems running perfectly. Jorah's security officer checked every room. Medical bay, engineering, crew quarters, bridge, all empty, all normal, all impossible. The ship's computer was still active. Jorah accessed the logs and started reading. The entries began 6 months ago, shortly after the humans were diverted to the void. The captain's voice came through the speakers, recorded for posterity. She sounded confused at first. They reached the coordinates but found no station. Just empty space and a strange energy field surrounding them. The captain tried to contact the Council. No response. She tried to contact the other human ships. Those worked. All 50 ships were trapped in the same field. They couldn't leave. They couldn't call for help. They were prisoners, though no one told them why. The captain's confusion turned to anger, then fear, then determination. Commander Chen appeared in several log entries. Her voice was calm but firm. She told her fleet not to panic. She ordered them to conserve resources and analyze the situation. She said they would find a way out. They always did. That was the human way. Never give up. Never stop fighting. Find a solution or make one. The logs showed what happened over 3 days. The humans studied the containment field. They shared data between ships. They worked together like a well-trained unit. Engineers from one ship helped engineers from another. Scientists collaborated across the fleet. They were trapped, but they weren't helpless. Then the field started failing. Small fluctuations at first, power spikes, weak points appearing and disappearing. The humans noticed immediately. They analyzed the patterns. They found the weakest sections. And when the field collapsed completely, they were ready. All 50 ships punched through and scattered in different directions. The Perseverance's logs continued for another week after escape. The captain documented everything. How the humans regrouped in a distant asteroid field. How they held a meeting between all ship commanders. How they made a decision that would change everything. They knew they had been betrayed. The Council tried to imprison them, maybe kill them. They couldn't trust anyone in this galaxy. Commander Chen gave a speech that was recorded on every ship. Jorah played it and listened carefully. Chen's voice was different now, harder, colder. She said they came in peace. They offered friendship. They were met with treachery. She said the humans would not make the same mistake twice. From now on, they would trust only themselves. They would stay hidden. They would learn. They would prepare. The fleet split up into smaller groups. Some ships went to mine asteroids for resources. Others built hidden shipyards. Some scouted council space, gathering intelligence. They moved like ghosts, never staying in one place long. They used stealth technology. They hacked into council networks. They learned everything they could about the galaxy that tried to cage them. The Perseverance had a special mission. It was left behind as a beacon, a message for anyone who came looking. The crew transferred to other ships, taking everything they needed. They left the ship running on automatic. They left one final log entry. The captain's voice was tired but determined. She said if anyone was listening to this, they should know the truth. Humans were not the threat the council feared, but they would become one if pushed. Jorah found more files in the ship's computer. The cultural data package that the humans originally sent to the council. She compared it to what the council received. They were different. The council's version had been analyzed by their AI, stripped down, interpreted. But the original version had something else. Something the AI missed or didn't understand. Yes, human history was violent, but it was also full of other things. Stories of sacrifice, people helping strangers, soldiers who refused to kill innocents, scientists who shared discoveries freely, artists who created beauty in terrible times. Humans were capable of great violence, but they were also capable of great love. The AI only saw the danger. It missed the hope. Jorah understood something the council didn't. Humans were dangerous not because they were violent. They were dangerous because they were survivors. They learned from every mistake. They adapted to every challenge. They never stopped growing. And now they had a new challenge. A galaxy that tried to imprison them. A council that saw them as threats instead of friends. The humans would learn from this too. She found one more file, hidden deep in the system, encrypted with codes that took her technical officer hours to break. When they finally opened it, they found something shocking. It was a copy of Administrator Ven's private communications. The humans had hacked his system before being captured. They stole everything, every secret, every classified file, every piece of intelligence about council operations. The file included Ven's analysis reports, his recommendations to the council, his reasoning for activating Protocol Omega. Jorah read it with growing horror. Ven wasn't just afraid of human violence. He was afraid of what would happen if other species learned the truth. If they knew that a prey species council imprisoned potential friends out of fear. If they knew that the peaceful council could be just as ruthless as any predator. Ven wrote about his real worry. The humans represented everything the council tried to hide. The possibility that cooperation didn't have to mean weakness, that strength didn't have to mean aggression, that a species could be both warrior and peacemaker. If humans joined the council, they would change everything. They would ask questions, challenge assumptions, force everyone to think differently. The council couldn't allow that. They had a system that worked for thousands of years. Peace through submission, order through control. Every species knew its place. Everyone followed the rules. The galaxy was safe because everyone was afraid to make waves. Humans would make waves, big ones, waves that might drown the council's authority. So the council decided to remove the problem before it started. Imprison the humans. Study them. Maybe release them in a few thousand years when they were properly civilized. When they learned to be more like everyone else. More obedient. More predictable. More controllable. But the humans escaped. And now they had all this information. They knew exactly why they were betrayed. They knew the council's deepest fears. They knew the secrets that kept the galaxy peaceful. And according to the last log entry, they had a plan to use that knowledge. Commander Chen's final recorded words were chilling. She said humans learned something important from Earth. When something tries to destroy you, you have two choices. Lie down and die or stand up and fight. But there's also a third option that humans perfected over thousands of years. Stand up and win without fighting. Show your enemy that destroying you would cost more than accepting you. Make them need you. Make them respect you. Make them realize their fear was the real threat all along. Jorah looked around the empty ship one last time. She understood now. This wasn't just a beacon. It was a message. A warning. A promise. The humans left this ship here for someone to find. They wanted the truth to come out. They wanted someone to know what really happened. And they wanted the council to know they were coming. She ordered her crew back to their ship. They had to warn the council immediately. The humans were not hiding because they were afraid. They were hiding because they were preparing. And when they revealed themselves again, the galaxy would never be the same. Jorah just hoped it wasn't too late to fix the terrible mistake the council made. But deep down, she knew the truth. The moment they betrayed humanity's trust, they started a chain of events that no one could stop. The humans were coming. Not for revenge, for something much more dangerous, justice. The council chamber erupted into chaos when Zora finished her report. Delegates shouted at each other. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for negotiations. A few suggested pretending nothing happened and hoping the humans would go away. But everyone knew the truth now. The secret was out. Jorah stood at the center of the storm and felt disgust rising in her throat. These were supposed to be the galaxy's wisest leaders. Instead, they acted like frightened children. They made a terrible mistake, and now they wanted someone else to fix it. She had seen enough. She was ready to resign and wash her hands of the whole mess. Then Krellick stood up. The Valorian ambassador raised his forearms for silence. The room gradually quieted. Everyone knew what was coming. The Valorians had been tracking the humans for weeks. If anyone knew where they were, it was Krellick's. And judging by his expression, the news was not good. Krellick's projected a star map showing council space. Red dots appeared across several sectors. Each dot represented a human ship sighting. There were dozens of them. The humans had been everywhere, watching, learning, mapping. They moved through council space like they owned it. And no one noticed until the Valorian intelligence network started looking. But that wasn't the shocking part. Krellick zoomed in on a remote asteroid field. His scouts found something there 2 days ago. A facility, a massive construction site hidden behind sensor jammers and stealth fields. The Valorian sent a probe to investigate. What it found made even Krellick's voice shake slightly as he described it. The humans built a shipyard, not a small one. An industrial complex that rivaled some council military facilities. They were building new ships. Lots of them. The probe counted over 300 vessels in various stages of construction. Some were based on the original human designs. Others looked like they incorporated council technology. The humans learned fast, very fast. The fleet that went into the void numbered 50 ships. The fleet that existed now numbered over 300. In 6 months, the humans increased their numbers 6 times over. They mined asteroids for resources. They reverse-engineered council technology from scans and hacked data. They built factories and shipyards. They didn't just survive their imprisonment. They thrived. Krellick displayed more images. Manufacturing facilities, research stations, supply depots. The humans created an entire infrastructure in secret. They did in 6 months what most species took decades to accomplish. And they did it while staying completely hidden from council surveillance. The only reason the Valorians found them was because they knew what to look for. The worst part came next. Krellick played an intercepted human communication. Heavily encrypted, but Valorian computers eventually cracked it. Commander Chen's voice came through the speakers. She was talking to her fleet commanders, giving orders, preparing for something big. The transmission was 3 days old. Chen spoke calmly, but her words carried weight. She said the time for hiding was over. The humans tried peace and were met with betrayal. They tried running and found that wasn't enough. Now they would try something different. They would show the galaxy what humans really were. Not monsters. Not victims. Something the council never expected. Teachers. The transmission ended with Chen giving a final order. Operation Revelation would begin in 72 hours. All ships were to move to their assigned positions. All personnel were to review their mission parameters. And most importantly, no council citizens were to be harmed. This wasn't about revenge. This was about truth. About showing everyone what their leaders did in their name. Krellick looked around the chamber. He said the transmission was sent 70 hours ago. That meant Operation Revelation was happening now. Right this moment. The humans were making their move and the council had no idea what that move would be. Panic spread through the chamber. Delegates demanded military alerts. Some wanted to evacuate their homeworlds. Others called for surrender. Then the reports started coming in. Sector 7 lost communications. Sector 12 went dark. Sector 15 reported strange ships appearing near their relay stations. The humans were attacking. Or at least, that's what everyone assumed. But the reports made no sense. No weapons fire. No casualties. Just human ships appearing, doing something, then vanishing again. Jorah watched the tactical display with growing confusion. The human ships moved with precision. They hit communication hubs, data centers, and information networks. But they weren't destroying anything. They were accessing systems, uploading data, broadcasting signals. It took her a moment to understand what was happening. The humans weren't attacking infrastructure. They were attacking ignorance. The realization hit the council at the same moment. The humans were releasing information, everything, the betrayal, the imprisonment, the cover-up. They hacked into every major network in council space. They broadcast the truth to every planet, every station, every ship. They made sure everyone knew exactly what their government did, but the humans didn't stop there. They also liberated the 17 stations that were evacuated 6 months ago. They sent teams to each one. They restored power. They reopened airlocks. They left messages inviting people to return home. The stations were never contaminated, never dangerous. They were cleared out based on lies, and now the humans were fixing that mistake. The freed station personnel were interviewed by human teams, treated well, given food and medical care, then sent back to council space with recordings. The humans wanted witnesses. They wanted people to see them face to face, to realize they weren't monsters. They were just people who were wronged and wanted to make it right. Within hours, the entire galaxy knew. Social networks exploded. News agencies scrambled to cover the story. Citizens demanded answers from their leaders. Some council delegates tried to deny everything, but the humans provided too much proof. Video recordings, data logs, encrypted files that only council leadership could have created. The evidence was overwhelming. Ambassador Krellix made his move. He stood before the council and made an announcement. The Valorian Empire recognized humanity as a sovereign species with full rights and protection. Any attack on human ships would be considered an attack on Valoria. He invited humans to join the Valorian trade network and military alliance. The message was clear. The Valorians were switching sides. Other species started following the Valorian lead. Smaller delegations announced their support for humanity. Some did it because they believed it was right. Others did it for political advantage. A few did it because they were afraid of being on the wrong side of history. The council's authority crumbled in real time. Jorah watched it all unfold and made her own decision. She approached Administrator Ven, who sat alone, looking broken and old. She asked him one question. Did he think he was protecting the galaxy? Ven looked at her with tired eyes and nodded. He said he truly believed humans were too dangerous, that their unpredictability would destroy the council's hard-won peace, that sometimes difficult choices had to be made for the greater good. Jorah told him he was wrong. Not about humans being dangerous. They were dangerous. But danger wasn't the same as evil. A knife was dangerous, but in the right hands it could feed a family. In the wrong hands it could kill. The council judged humans by their capacity for violence and ignored their capacity for everything else. That wasn't protection. That was cowardice. She turned away from Ven and walked out of the council chamber. She knew what she had to do. She transmitted a message on all human frequencies. She identified herself in her position. She apologized for the council's actions. She said not everyone agreed with what was done. She said some of them wanted to make it right. She asked for a chance to meet, to talk, to find a better way forward. The response came within minutes. Commander Chen herself appeared on the screen. She looked tired but determined. She said she received Zora's message. She appreciated the apology, but apologies weren't enough. Actions mattered. Choices mattered. She asked Zora a simple question. What was she willing to do to make things right? Jorah didn't hesitate. She said she would resign from council service. She would testify about everything she found. She would help humans navigate council politics. She would stand with them against anyone who tried to harm them again. She was done being part of a system that chose fear over hope. Chen studied her for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was a small smile, but genuine. She said humans valued loyalty. They valued courage. They valued people who did the right thing even when it was hard. She said Zora was welcome among humans anytime. They could use friends like her. Real friends. The kind that stood by you even when things got difficult. The conversation ended with Chen giving coordinates for a meeting. Not a military confrontation. not a negotiation under threat. A real meeting between people who wanted to find common ground. The location was neutral space. The attendees would include human commanders, Valorian representatives, and any council members brave enough to show up. Chen said it was time for a new beginning. A second first contact, one based on honesty instead of fear, one that might actually work. Jorah accepted immediately. She didn't know if it would fix everything, but it was a start, and sometimes that's all anyone could ask for. The meeting took place on a small moon orbiting a gas giant in neutral space. No weapons allowed, no military escorts, just delegates, diplomats, and people willing to talk honestly. Jorah arrived early with a small Quellan delegation. The Valorians came next, led by Ambassador Krellix. Then others trickled in, species from across the galaxy, some curious, some supportive, some just wanting to witness history. The council sent representatives too, not the High Council members. They stayed home, probably hoping this would all blow over. But mid-level administrators came. People who actually did the work of running the galaxy. People who might have disagreed with the imprisonment but followed orders anyway. People who now had to live with their choices. The humans arrived last. 3 ships landed on the moon's surface. Commander Elizabeth Chen walked out first, flanked by her senior officers. They wore simple uniforms. No weapons, no armor. Just people coming to talk. Jorah studied them carefully. They looked tired. 6 months of constant work and stress had left marks, but they also looked determined, unbroken, ready for whatever came next. Chen approached the assembled delegates with steady steps. She stopped a few meters away and looked at each group in turn. When her eyes met Zora's, there was recognition, a small nod of acknowledgement. Then Chen turned to address everyone. Her voice was clear and carried easily across the open space. She thanked everyone for coming. She said humans appreciated the courage it took for some people to be here. She acknowledged that not everyone present agreed with what the council did. Some fought against it. Some spoke up. Some tried to help. She wanted those people to know that humans remembered. They didn't blame entire species for the actions of a few leaders, but Chen also made clear that what happened could never be forgotten. The council tried to imprison humans based on fear and prejudice. They did it in secret. They lied about it. They covered it up. That kind of behavior couldn't be allowed to continue. Not if the galaxy wanted to call itself civilized. Not if the council wanted to maintain any kind of moral authority. A council representative stood up. She was a Quellan elder, similar species to Zora. She spoke carefully, choosing her words with visible effort. She said the council made mistakes. She admitted fear drove those mistakes. She asked what humans wanted. What would it take to move forward? What could possibly repair the damage done? Chen smiled sadly. She said revenge would be easy. Humans could hurt the council badly. They proved that already. They had the military strength. They had allies now. They had public support across the galaxy. But revenge was what fear expected, what prejudice predicted. Humans wanted to prove everyone wrong about them, so they would do something different. The humans wanted 3 things. First, full disclosure. Every species in the galaxy needed to know what happened. No more secrets. No more cover-ups. The council had to admit publicly what they did and why. They had to take responsibility. Second, systemic reform. The council's structure allowed a few people to make terrible decisions with no oversight. That needed to change. Real checks and balances. Real accountability. Real democracy. Third, and most important, humans wanted a seat at the table. Not as prisoners. Not as subjects, as equals. They wanted to join the council as full members with full voting rights. They wanted to help shape the future of the galaxy. They wanted to prove that different didn't mean dangerous. That strength and compassion could coexist. That the galaxy could be better than its fears. The demands were reasonable but challenging. Some delegates nodded in agreement. Others looked uncomfortable. A few looked outright hostile. But no one could deny that humans earned the right to ask. They were wronged. They could have destroyed so much. Instead, they chose justice over vengeance. That took more strength than violence ever could. Krellix stood up next. He announced the Valorian Empire's full support for all human demands. He proposed immediate emergency legislation to grant humans provisional council membership, pending formal approval. He also proposed the formation of an independent committee to investigate the imprisonment and recommend reforms. The Valorians would sponsor and fund this committee. Other species quickly added their support. Some because they truly believed in the cause. Others because they saw which way the wind was blowing. Politics remained politics even in moments of historic change. But the result was the same. Within hours, the assembled delegates drafted a preliminary agreement. Humans would join the council. Reforms would begin. Truth would be told. Jorah watched it all with mixed feelings. This was a victory, a genuine step forward, but she knew the hard part was just beginning. Changing laws was easy compared to changing hearts. Generations of council species grew up believing certain things about power and peace. Humans challenged all of that. Some people would never accept it. There would be resistance, maybe even violence, but there would also be hope. Jorah saw it in the younger delegates, the ones who grew up with access to information from thousands of worlds. The ones who questioned authority and demanded better. They looked at humans with curiosity instead of fear, with excitement instead of suspicion. This new generation might actually build something better. The formal ceremony happened 3 days later. Back in the council chambers on the capital world, the High Council had no choice but to attend. Thousands of species watched through live broadcasts. Commander Chen stood before the assembled leaders wearing the same simple uniform. No pageantry. No grand speeches. Just a woman representing her people with quiet dignity. The head of the council, an ancient being who rarely spoke, read the official proclamation. Humanity was granted full council membership. The charges of threat and danger were officially withdrawn. The imprisonment was acknowledged as a grave error. Reparations would be discussed. Reforms would be implemented. The council apologized. The words were formal and careful, but they were said. That mattered. Chen accepted on behalf of humanity. She gave a brief speech that would be quoted for generations. She said humans came to the stars looking for friends and found fear. They endured betrayal and found strength. They faced imprisonment and found freedom. Now they stood in the council chambers not as victims or conquerors, but as partners, ready to work, ready to learn, ready to show the galaxy what humanity really meant. She ended with words that captured everything humans wanted the galaxy to understand. Humans survived because they never stopped trying. They never gave up on hope even when hope seemed foolish. They believed that tomorrow could be better than today if people worked together. That belief drove them across Earth. It would now drive them across the galaxy. Not to conquer, not to destroy, to build, to create. To prove that cooperation was stronger than fear, the chamber filled with applause. Not everyone clapped. Some species sat in silence, still uncertain, but enough applauded to make it clear that change was happening. The galaxy was shifting. Old assumptions were breaking down. New possibilities were opening up. It was terrifying and exciting in equal measure. After the ceremony, Zora found Chen in a quiet hallway. They talked for a while about the future, about challenges ahead, about the work needed to build real trust. Chen thanked Zora for standing up when it mattered. She said humans would remember who their real friends were. The ones who helped when they had nothing to gain and everything to lose. Jorah asked Chen a question that bothered her. If the containment field never failed, if the humans never escaped, what would they have done? Would they have accepted their fate? Chen's answer was immediate and honest. No. They would have found a way out eventually, or they would have died trying. That was the human way. Never accept a cage. Never stop fighting for freedom. It wasn't about being violent. It was about being free. 10 years passed. The changes were slow but real. Human ships patrolled council space alongside other species. Human scientists collaborated on research projects. Human diplomats negotiated treaties. Human teachers shared their perspective in council schools. The Silent 6 months, as people called that period, became required study for all young council members. A lesson about the dangers of fear and the importance of trust. Humanity thrived in the council. They brought new ideas, new technologies, new ways of solving old problems, but more importantly, they brought their attitude, the belief that any challenge could be overcome with enough effort. The refusal to accept that things had to stay the same, the insistence on asking why and demanding better answers. Other species started adopting human traits, not physically but culturally. They questioned authority more. They demanded accountability from leaders. They refused to accept fear as a reason for anything. The galaxy became louder, messier, less predictable. It also became more innovative, more dynamic, more alive. When external threats appeared, as they inevitably did, humans stood on the front lines. Not because they were violent, but because they understood something the other species were still learning. Peace wasn't the absence of conflict. It was the choice to protect what mattered even when protection was dangerous. Humans chose to protect their new home, the galaxy that finally accepted them. Commander Chen eventually retired from active service. She became an ambassador focused on first contact protocols. She made sure no species would ever again face what humans did. She created guidelines, training programs, cultural sensitivity workshops. She taught council diplomats that different wasn't dangerous. That fear was the real enemy. That hope was always stronger than hate. Jorah worked alongside Chen for many of those years. She became the face of council reform, the symbol of choosing right over easy. Young people from every species knew her story. The detective who discovered the truth and had the courage to stand with it. She never sought fame, but she accepted the responsibility that came with it. On the 10th anniversary of humanity's council membership, a memorial was built, not celebrating victory, not mourning loss, remembering choice. The choice to respond to betrayal with justice instead of revenge. The choice to build bridges instead of walls. The choice to prove wrong everyone who thought humans were too dangerous to trust. The memorial's inscription was simple. Words that captured everything humans wanted the galaxy to know. Words that Chen herself wrote. They read, "We came in peace. They tried to cage us. We could have answered with hate. We chose hope instead. Not because we were weak. Because we were strong. Strong enough to be better than our pain. Strong enough to build instead of destroy. Strong enough to show the galaxy what humanity really means." Standing before that memorial, looking at the words carved in stone for future generations, Jorah understood something important. The council feared humans because they survived everything. But that survival taught humans the most important lesson any species could learn: the strength to forgive, the courage to trust again, the wisdom to know that today's enemy could be tomorrow's friend, and the faith that no matter how dark things got, there was always hope for something better. That was humanity's real gift to the galaxy. Not weapons, not technology, not even their stubborn refusal to quit. It was their absolute, unshakable belief that things could always get better if people worked together. And amazingly, terrifyingly, wonderfully, they were right.